Video games are in a weird place. The video game community has evolved a lot in the last few years, with the modern day AAA titles either being stuck in development hell or coming out looking like this. It's no secret as to why the gaming community has seemed to reach a consensus of sorts in the past few years. That consensus being that one of the best ways to experience a high quality gaming product in the modern day is through an indie game. Indie games have become even more of a part of the gaming zeitgeist, and for good reason, as people are realizing that indie games are just as high quality or better than AAA titles. This is a sentiment that I personally really agree with, but unfortunately I've never really talked about indie games on the channel before. So that is why today I'm going to be talking about 6 of my favorite indie games that I've been playing recently that I would recommend that you play as well. Now this is not any kind of ranking or ordering, these are just 6 of my favorites that I want to showcase to all of you so that you can try them out for yourself. You might have heard of some of these games, you might not have heard of any of these games, you might have even played a few of them, but if you find today that one of these turns out to be one of your new favorite games, then I believe that I've done my job here today. Before we begin, I would just like to remind you all of a few things. First, make sure to like the video if you liked, and of course be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content. It's completely free and it helps me out a ton. And also leave a comment down below if you like the video and want to see more content from me, and let me know what you want to see in the future. But with all that out of the way and without any further delay, my name is Knitty, thank you for watching, and let's get right into it. Hey you, do you like Paper Mario? Do you hate what Paper Mario has become in the modern day? Well then do I have a game for you. Fables: The Everlasting Sapling is a 2D turn-based RPG developed by Moonsprout Games that takes heavy inspiration from the first 2 Paper Mario games. In Fables: The Everlasting Sapling, you play as Vi, Kabu, and Leaf, a group of 3 explorers who set out to find the Everlasting Sapling, an artifact that can supposedly give bugs eternal life. Now, Fables does take a lot of inspiration from Paper Mario, with its environments, gameplay, battle mechanics, characters, and writing. A lot of people might look at this and think, oh, well, that's derivative of Paper Mario, that doesn't make Fables unique. But Fables actually has a lot of different mechanics that make it stand out from Paper Mario. Not only does Fables stand out with its cool environments, interesting characters, well-written dialogue, and fun gameplay, Fables also has some more interesting gameplay elements that make it stand out. For instance, the overworld levels being more focused on platforming and puzzle solving, and even in-battle mechanics are different than Paper Mario. Having 3 party members in battle makes things really interesting. Not only can you swap the leader of the party and their active ability at any time, making puzzles a lot more interesting, but this introduces in-battle mechanics such as taking one party member's turn to give one of your others 2 turns, or switching the turn on a dime to be able to act as a different party member. Fables: The Everlasting Sapling is probably the game that I can tell you the least about, and the honest truth is because it is the game that I've played the least. But that's probably for the best, because it is the game that I'm sure that most of you have heard the most out of all the ones in this video. And for good reason. Everyone who has played Fables has raved on and on about how great it is, and they're right. Fables is not just a darn good turn-based RPG, it's just a darn good video game, and it's definitely the easiest one to recommend to the casual gamer of all of these in this video. I recommend it not only for fans of the original Paper Mario games or for just turn-based RPGs in general, but just anyone who wants to play a darn good game with great characters, great gameplay, awesome locations, and overall just a great atmosphere and a fun time all around. If those things can appeal to fans of non-turn-based RPGs, then you know you've done something really well. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm not really a shooter guy. My shooter resume basically only extends to Splatoon. However, I have always found a sort of guilty pleasure from zombie shooters, such as Left 4 Dead and Call of Duty Zombies. In fact, I really just love zombie media in general. Combine my love of zombie media with my love of simulation games like Roller Coaster Tycoon and The Sims, and you get Project Zomboid. Developed by the Indie Store, Project Zomboid is a simulation-style zombie survival game. Despite still being in early access, always baffles me with how much content it has every time I play it. Upon booting the game up, you will be thrown into one of the most hardcore and lengthy tutorials for any game I've ever played, and one of the most in-depth and intense character creators you will ever seen. Upon actually being thrown into the game makes it very clear what the objective is. It's the apocalypse. Survive as long as you can. And to be fair, Project Zomboid makes it pretty easy to do that. The sheer amount of stuff you can do in this game is insane. Not only do you have so many different options for each individual object you can click on, some options are locked off upon spawn and then you can gain more later, opening the game up even further. But even still, every single spawn location will be different, all the levels are randomly generated, and the amount of zombies and what you will do will be different every time. This makes every single playthrough of Project Zomboid completely unique in almost a roguelike fashion. That makes it so much fun to come back to see how much better you can do this time compared to your last time. With all of these reasons and more, Project Zomboid is probably the most difficult game on this list to truly learn how to play and master. It has an incredibly steep learning curve and there's just so much information to take in. It might be one of those games you might want to have a wiki open for. But I think that's part of the fun, is truly learning something new every time you play, and each and every time you play, you get better and better. Another thing I want to shout out Project Zomboid for is being legitimately scary at times. The way the game's lighting and sound work, you oftentimes walk up to a window and then get jump scared by a zombie. This game seems really innocuous at times, but when it pulls out the jump scares, it really pulls out the jump scares. Like I said earlier, this game is still in early access, but it truly baffles me just how much content that they're constantly adding. I mean, there was so much content in the base game already, but just checking the recent updates, they added even more stuff. Project Zomboid is a game that I would easily recommend to anybody who's a fan of zombie games, survival games, simulation games, all three, any combination, or even just someone who wants something different to play, because I don't really think there's anything like Project Zomboid out there. Have you ever wondered what would happen if Rhythm Heaven and Binding of Isaac had a child? Well, other than me thinking you're weird for thinking that, I would tell you to go play Crypt of the Necrodancer. Developed by Brace Yourself Games, Crypt of the Necrodancer is a 2D dungeon crawler roguelike rhythm game. And if any of those words interest you, then you've come to the right place. The goal of Crypt of the Necrodancer is simple: explore dungeons while killing monsters and finding treasure. However, the only way you can do any of these things is by moving to the beat of the music playing around you. And if that sounds difficult, is because it is. Procedurally generated dungeons, each with own unique monsters with patterns, stage hazards, traps, and everything else. This is a game where you're constantly going to want to be on your toes looking around you, but the music is just so dang good, you'll often find yourself getting lost in it and getting hit when you don't mean to. One thing I love that Crypt of the Necrodancer does is a progression system. Oftentimes in dungeons, you'll find diamonds that you can use to buy items in the overworld to find in future dungeons, making each run completely unique and worth it to go on one more run to see what else you can unlock. Plus, with how quick each dungeon run is going to end up being, this is a game where one more run is justified, because it won't set you back too long in doing so. Another thing I love about Crypt of the Necrodancer is just how customizable it is. There's truly a different playstyle for everyone. There are different characters you can play as for different playstyles. There are challenges you can complete. You can change the music, your skin, the background. You can play as different levels. There's truly something for everybody in Crypt of the Necrodancer. Much like Bug Fables from earlier, Crypt of the Necrodancer is an easy recommendation for almost anybody. Rhythm games and dungeon crawler roguelikes are pretty niche genres and not everyone's gonna like both. But if you're a fan of one or the other or both of them, then Crypt of the Necrodancer is an easy recommendation from me. Even if you just want something different from your game, then Crypt of the Necrodancer will truly give you an experience like no other. There's also the Zelda expansion, Cadence of Hyrule. I have never actually played this, but I've heard it's good and I really want to one of these days. But besides Cadence of Hyrule, if you just want a darn good game with some great gameplay, interesting characters, and great music, then Crypt of the Necrodancer is the game just for you. Much like Bug Fables earlier, I really don't think I need to sit here and tell you how good of a game Celeste really is. But I guess that's what I signed up to do in this YouTube video, so here we go. Celeste is a 2D platformer developed by small indie team Maddie Makes Games. In it, you play as Madeline, a young girl with anxiety and insecurities who hopes to overcome those by climbing to the top of Celeste Mountain. Celeste is one of those tough as nails games, as I like to call it. One of those games where its whole purpose is to kill you over and over again until you figure out how to complete the task in front of you. I personally get a lot of enjoyment out of these games. I really enjoyed games like Cuphead and Super Meat Boy. However, I think Celeste does this style better than almost any other game out there. I think the reason for that is because in Celeste, you never feel underprepared or unqualified to complete the task in front of you. The game gives you all of the tools you need to complete every challenge. You just have to figure it out for yourself. Everything is inside of you. You can do it. Celeste is a game that prides itself on its simplicity. Sure, every element of the game might seem basic at face value, but each element of the game is extended up to 11 when put in the context of the game to create a truly engaging experience. Sure, the graphics might seem simple, but they're used to great effect to create vivid environments and engaging visuals. Sure, the story might be basic, but it tells itself in such a way to create an emotional, engaging, and invigorating story. Sure, the gameplay might be simple, but the game constantly throws new ideas and new challenges at you to keep reinventing itself. Of course, I can't talk about Celeste without mentioning the absolutely incredible soundtrack by the one and only Lena Raine. It's incredible that Leno went from composing an indie game soundtrack from a team of only 7 people to composing for freaking Minecraft. And I think stories like that show the power of not just Celeste in general, but just indie games as a whole. Celeste is easily the game that I could tell you the most about and I recommend you play the most, but it's also the game that I want to tell you the least about. I recommend you play Celeste completely blind. Seriously, stop the video, go buy Celeste, go play it blind, and then come back. You won't regret it. I have been wanting to talk about this game for months. I bought Have a Nice Death completely on a whim after seeing it get talked about in a Nintendo Direct. I bought it and tried it out, and it immediately became one of my new favorites. Have a Nice Death is a 2D platformer action roguelike game developed by Magic Design Studios. In Have a Nice Death, you play as Death himself, who is the CEO of Death Inc. Souls are piling up, and Death can't fill out all the paperwork, so you've got to go whip all your subordinates into shape. Upon loading a brand new save file, the game will throw you right into the tutorial. We'll teach you everything you need to know, and then kick you out in the streets. You've got to figure the rest out for yourself. In every single run that you do, you will learn something new. You might discover a new weapon and learn how it works. You might fight a new boss. You'll probably die to that new boss, but at least you'll be better prepared for next time. And I think that's one of the many beauties of Have a Nice Death, is that every run feels like it matters, or it's important. Similarly to Crypt the Necrodancer, Have a Nice Death uses a progression system that allows you to purchase items that you can use in future runs to make them even better. This is another one of the many beauties of Have a Nice Death, just how customizable it is. You can pick what weapons you start with, upgrade them in different ways, pick what paths you go on, pick how you start each run, build your kits in any way you want, pick what items you pick up. You can even customize your office when you start the game. Have a Nice Death is a game that really excels at the small details. All the way from the beautiful animation style with the hand-drawn graphics, to the witty and creative item names and item descriptions, even the smallest and most minute details, to every time you boot up the game or load into a brand new run, you're greeted with "Welcome to the afterlife." It just makes the game so fun and enjoyable and just truly makes every run feel like a completely different experience. Even if Have a Nice Death is not the most creative roguelike out there, it truly is an experience unlike any other, and honestly, for any fans of roguelikes or just any gamer who wants just a fun and exciting game, there really is no other game like Have a Nice Death, and it's an easy recommendation. Remember how I said earlier that I've never talked about any of these games anywhere on my channels before? Well, unfortunately I lied to you. Because this final game, I've actually streamed on Twitch before. And after all of the streams and all of the hours of playing it, it has since become one of my favorite games of all time. And that game is Death Road to Canada. Developed by Rocket Cat Games, Death Road to Canada's concept is simple. It's the zombie apocalypse. Zombies have overrun the United States, but Canada is the only safe place left on Earth. You live in Florida, good luck. The best way I can describe Death Road to Canada is the Oregon Trail meets zombies. The game essentially has 2 sections. The first section is you running around the areas collecting items and fighting zombies. The second are the events where you and your party are driving down the Death Road, where you'll come to different events and will have to choose the option that you would like to pick to progress. Depending on the outcome, good or bad things can happen. I could seriously go on and on talking about how much I love this game, but instead I'll try to keep it brief and just talk about a few of my favorite things. The first thing I want to point out is just how funny this game is. There are all different kinds of different characters you can run into, each of them with their own crazy personalities and funny dialogue. The dialogue between you and your own party members is really funny too, especially when your morale gets low. We'll talk about morale here in a minute. The text that occurs whenever certain events happen is also really funny. I particularly like whenever bad events happen and the game typically makes fun of you and has some sort of funny jab at you whenever that happens. I also love all the different mechanics this game throws in, such as different cars for driving, different weapon types, different character classes, each character having their own stats, and one of my personal favorite mechanics, morale. Morale is basically a mechanic that determines how well your party members get along. Higher morale means better things can happen, but if a character's morale gets too low, bad things can happen and they can even leave your party at some points. Much like Have a Nice Death, I also love the customization options this game offers. Every single run will be different, not only where you encounter different characters and go to different places, but this game right off the bat offers a ton of customization options, which an extremely in-depth character creator and all different kinds of stats and abilities you can get. I believe that Death Road to Canada is the culmination of everything that we have talked about so far. Death Road to Canada does every positive of every previous game I've mentioned, and then some. I could seriously sit here and make an entire video about why I love this game, but I'm just going to highlight a few of the things I haven't mentioned so far. First, I would like to talk about the familiar characters mode, which basically means that any of the characters you've created will show up during your run. This can get pretty funny because the character creator is very extensive, so you can basically make whoever you want and give them whatever personality and stats you want, and they can interact with your other characters in pretty crazy ways, and it can make for some pretty funny moments. I would also like to point out the different settings you can add in the video to make your video look different. You can add things like film grain and static, which is pretty cool, and it's pretty minute, but it's a nice little touch that they didn't really have to add. And finally, I want to mention that this game has local multiplayer, which throw someone in who has never played this game before into the mix, and you can even make him a character to make him really feel like they're in it, and you'll have a blast, just trust me. Seriously, Death Road to Canada is probably the biggest recommendation I have on this entire list, maybe except for Celeste, but I recommend those games for two completely different reasons. Death Road to Canada is seriously one of my favorite games right now, and it is definitely the biggest recommendation that I have. I know I've already said that, but I really can't reiterate how much I want you all to play this game. It's not too expensive on things like Steam or PlayStation 4 or the Switch, and really, it doesn't matter what platform you play it on, you will have a blast no matter what, because it's just so unique and so creative and so fun. There just really isn't anything like it, and honestly, just please go play it. But with that, I have now counted down 6 of my favorite indie games that I recommend that you play right now. Maybe I taught you something new about a game you've already played, or maybe I taught you about the favorite game that you're going to go try right now. Either way, I had a lot of fun making this video. This is the first video of this new style that I talked about, and there's going to be a lot more coming in the future. So, of course, thank you for watching, and I hope you liked the video. As always, please remember to like and subscribe. They're completely free, and they help out a ton for the algorithm and all that junk that doesn't really matter, but it just makes me feel good when you subscribe, and it lets me know that you're enjoying the content. Like I said in the update video, I got a lot of more videos in this style coming up, so I really hope you like it, and I hope you stick around for the future because there's going to be some cool stuff coming up. Anyway, like I said, thank you for watching. I appreciate you sticking around, and I will see you... That was stupid. I'll see you later. Goodbye.